Guys, welcome to another video of the map previews for current season. Today, in this video, I will be doing a Proxima Station Letter Edition map. I'll talk about it. So let's get started. Okay, so the map itself doesn't have any watchtowers, as you guys can see. The pathway, usually all the games end up like this, through the middle. There's some rocks in the middle, which I will show you guys. So there's rocks here which can enable you to get the gold base. Same for the other side of the map. And then there's some quirky back rocks to your third and then to your natural, which are rarely used, but sometimes come in handy, so you have to be careful about them. Okay, so for this map, it's really important to wall off as quickly as you can here. This map is really easy to wall off since you don't need to be walling off your natural because, well, the natural is in your main base, basically. Third base, there's no real options, unlike some of the maps. This is, your main. You go to the third, grab the third, and that's pretty much it. The moment you wall off, the moment you take the third, unless you're playing against Terran, so against Zerg and Protoss, you want to wall off here, just because there might be some run-bys coming into your mineral line or adepts shading in. Against Terran, the wall off is not needed because Terran has all the ranged units in the game. Okay, so let's start with TVZ once again. So on this map, TVZ is more or less pretty straightforward. What you want to be doing most of the time is, I'm going to be talking if I spawn in top right, you'll be fighting over this base. Zergs used to take the gold base on the middle, but they realize it's too close to the Terran, so they usually take this base. And for Zerg, it's pretty easy to spread creep from here to the fourth base. First three bases for them is really easy to take, so it's kind of hard to harass on this map with ground units, but harassing with Ravens or Liberators, I think is pretty decent on this map. So the map plays out basically, once again, since it's TVZ, fighting over the fourth base. So what you want to be doing is pushing through the middle, denying some creep over here, making sure the creep stops, and then continuing forward and moving on to killing the rocks that will give you the access to the fourth base. And then if the creep spread is like this, you want to be setting up this way with either siege tanks or automates, depending on which you go, and slowly attacking the Zerg, while at the same time, like I said, maintaining the creep at this level and not allowing it to push any further. You can't do drops at the same time. Like if you're pushing the fort right here, you can do the drops in the main from this side, or even you can send Liberators from all the way behind on the left side and send them to the natural. One thing you need to be careful of, mutas I think are pretty strong in this map, simply because if you're having engagement on the middle of the map and your units are running back, the mutas can just go straight for your main base and mess with your production right here. If the production buildings are all here, going from here, your units arrive, mutas just rotate to your main base, to the natural, and then to the third, and they're basically back on the middle. So be careful of the mutas in this map. I think it can be really tricky to deal with, but most of the time you want to be controlling this path so there's no creep going this way, and controlling creep here and just pushing onto the fourth base. So the map is pretty straightforward. There's not many tricks or paths that you can take. It's similar to Belshire, where you're kind of focusing on one point. And that's pretty much it. Liberator positioning and tank positioning. Like I said, tanks on this map are good in two positions specifically, which is this position right here. You can push in with siege tanks like this path, or another good position, especially if you're doing like a 2 or 3 base timing, is pushing through the middle and then sieging up here, dropping like Marines here, and then pushing into the natural base. Especially if you decide to not destroy these rocks, having siege tanks in this position will be pretty hard for the Zerg to engage, because obviously they can't do it from here, so with links, so they would have to go all the way around. And if you have some Marines pre-split here to defend, this position is very, very strong for that. Against Road Ravager, not so much, because if you have tank here, he will just spam crucibles and you will lose all the tanks. So, as far as Liberators go, like I already mentioned, the map is pretty good for Liberators. Liberator range is pretty good on this map, since you can use it from these positions without, I think, without getting attacked. But even without Liberator range, you know, if the Liberator comes from this side, you can siege up. If the Spore is in position, you can rotate to the natural. And there's a lot of dead air space behind the bases, so Liberators should be able to move freely behind, which is very, very good for Terran. Another good spot is sieging your Liberator from this position and basically denying the gases right here. If you get pushed back from the natural, you can always go here to the third and so on. Another thing that's very good is Ravens. Like I said, lots of dead space. You can just drop turrets and pull back and be absolutely fine. So to end the TVZ discussion, what to watch out for. The counterattacks are not that strong on this map because you will be rallying units here where your wall is. So the Zerg cannot really counterattack on this map, which is again very good for Terran. And just be careful of the mute account getting very, very big, because then it's very hard to deal with. Okay. Let's talk about TVP. TVP on this map, I've met and faced a lot of war prisms because once again there's a lot of dead airspace. So unlike Oracle, where if you make a turret here and turret in the natural, you're kind of fine against them. War Prism, if it comes this way, drops 2 adepts, continues to the natural, drops 2 adepts, goes back to the main. It can be very, very hard to deal with. So I've met quite a lot of War Prism plays here, usually with adepts, but most of the time you'll be able to safely get a third base, because it's very hard for Protoss to all-in you on this map, simply because there's this tight ramp that they need to go up to. So this map usually plays out in a macro style. I think it's very good for Terran for harass, again for the same reason, because should play this replay just for fun. For the same reason, where the medevac comes from here, drops the Widow Mines, maybe picks up the Widow Mines, goes to the natural, you know, comes with the Liberator, sieges up the Liberator, and so on. So overall, I think this map is pretty good for Terran because of all the airspace behind the bases. And also against Protoss, you can drop on so many places. You can drop straight here, you can drop here, you can go around, drop here. So it's very hard for Protoss, in my opinion, to cover these bases. Even if you drop here, there's 2 pylons overcharged, like this. You could just pick up, load, and go to the natural. If he overcharges natural, again with 2 pylons, well, you pick up, go back to the main, and there's no more pylon overcharge. So I think this map is pretty difficult for Protoss to play. But again, it depends what kind of Protoss you're playing against, because you still have fast 3-base that is very easy to take as a Protoss. So if they go Colossus Blink and just camp to 200, and you don't do enough damage, then suddenly the map turns into kind of very good for Protoss. So attack paths, what you want to do in this map is, like I already mentioned, just do a lot of drops, make sure the Protoss is out of position. I would even suggest taking out these 2 rocks when you're healing your units around this area and you're waiting to redrop, because it will give you an open path to just run by instead of dropping, because dropping is always more dangerous. While if you just run in, even if there's units, you can just pull back, fight them, and so on. And at the end, if you manage to, if the Protoss defense is here, if you manage to get into this position with Liberator zones, that will be pretty much GG. Another spot for the siege tanks, just like against Zerg, you can use is this one. But also against Protoss, what you can do is push this side. Maybe if there's too many units, you go all the way around and you siege up tanks here, which will be hitting the mineral line, which is very annoying to deal with as Protoss. And also after that, if you want, you can siege tank push right here in this position. What to watch out for on this map is the War Prisms. I think the Proxy Oracle in this position is very, very strong, because you can't really scout it easily. you would need to go all the way around, and you don't really want to be scouting with an SCV that early for, possible proxy. So that's what you need to watch out for. Also, proxy stargates here into void ray all-ins that might come from this side if they see that you have enough defense here. So be careful about that. Make sure you scout. And other than that, war prisms can be, like I said, very annoying. Even DT drops into here, 1 DT here, 1 DT here, can be very, very frustrating to deal with. And last but not least, TVT. I've been having mixed results in TVT on this map. Because the map is so good for drops, I think 2-base marine tank pushes are very, very strong here. And it can be very, very difficult to get the 3rd base really early on this map, because if you do get this base, I mean obviously you're going to get this one, but if you get the 3rd base right here, that leaves your natural open to doom drop, it leaves your main open here, it leaves your main open here for doom drop, and as you guys know in TVT, doom drop pretty much ends the game most of the time if it's on production facilities. So I would suggest, if you play TVT and you don't have too much experience in TVT in general, I would suggest to go for 2-base, 5 racks, 1 factory, 1 starport, doom drop pushes, and like go here. If your opponent has units here, just load up and go either this way or this way and try to take advantage of the map basically. For example, even if you're pushing through this area, he repositions his units here. It's a lot easier for you to just load up and go into the main than for him to move to the tiny ramp and just a small choke. So TVT is usually just a bunch of doom drops. Early aggression is not really a thing on this map, so you can safely expand most of the time. Fast expand, which is not something I will say for a lot of maps in TVT, because there's usually a ton of aggression, but because of the small ramp, it's very hard to put pressure with Cyclone Reaper and so on. What else can I talk about here? I mean, that's pretty much it for TVT. TVT is a pretty straightforward match. There's a lot of different strategies, but as far as the attack paths go in TVT, there's no real attack paths. It's mostly doom drops and just trying to get your opponent out of position. Another thing I want to touch on, you guys know that in the other video I was talking a lot about the 3rd map and comparing them, but again, because there's only one 3rd base here, sorry. I will mention the 4th base. A lot of people take the gold base, and I have to agree with it. I think it's just a better base to take, especially early on, because you want to mine it out as soon as you can. And then you kind of get this base into mid to late game and this base for free. So if you take this base and then this base indirectly defends this one. So it's like double expanding in a way. So as you're nearing, mining out gold or your 3rd base, you can just double expand to this one and this one in TVZ. And TVT, I would also take this base and TVP the same, because it gives you a little bit of protection. So instead of getting doom drop from here, if you have the gold base or war prism dropped, it limits and forces the opponent to go around. And then if you add a couple of turrets like here, here, and here, you'll be a lot safer versus doom drops. While if you take this base against Protoss or against Terran, that will only make it even harder for you, since it will give them another point of view to attack into with their whole main army, even though it will kinda but not really protect your natural a bit. I said kinda not really because they can just fly over here, so that doesn't do much. So I would suggest in all 3 matchups just taking this base because it's safer and it's also gold base, so why not? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review of Proxima Station Letter Edition. I'll be doing more maps. If you're interested, go check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.